All right. Welcome back to our viewers and our listeners. This is episode 45.
Look at my stickers go with your outfit.
They do?
You should have worn Yes.
Well, the love and light, great minds think alike, right?
Uh-huh.
So episode 45, as we were saying, of the Love and Light podcast, powered by 103.9 WDKX. I am Willie Lightfoot.
And I am Lovely Warren.
And we have an exciting topic to talk about today. We're titling it Locked Doors, Signed Declarations, When State and Local Politics Go National. Of course, we are here. We've been this episode 45. I see oftentimes I'm like, wow, we're really pushing along, and we thank for our listeners, our viewers, and everyone. But we got to remind you that we want to tell all of our listening family, we encourage you to download the WDKX mobile app. Even if you can text the WDKX frontline number by texting 585-678-1039 and tell us how you like the show or give us new show topics. You can also use the open mic feature on the app to leave us messages about the show. Now we'll have a little bit about our love lifting segment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So well, there's a couple of things that we need to lift up, right? So the first thing is this week, the CEO of Target stepped down. Even though he's the board chair, he stepped down. As you know, Pastor Jamal Bryant had led a significant boycott of Target based on their DEI policies and them, basically stepping back from what they had originally agreed to.
And they lost billions, right?
Right. They lost a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
And their shares, their stock shares have plummeted. And so people have just, stopped going. And they've tried to, gain people back. So it was like a 90-day or 40-day. I can't remember how many days, because actually I stopped going to Target and I've never been back. Right. And I have no desire to even go back. Right. Wow. So it's one of those things.
So no Target withdrawal from you at all.
No, I mean, in the beginning, you feel like, oh, let me stop by Target. And then you realize, you get to the parking lot, like, oh, no, I can't go here because we boycotted, right?
I didn't even know that was a store that we as people of color actually use. I never go there.
A lot of,
I didn't realize that.
They had a lot. They did have a lot of Black products and that catered to the African-American community. Okay. And so, like hair products, everything, cooking products. So it was, it was
we're
a
very
blow.
Brand loyal.
Right.
We're
brand loyal. Right.
We are brand loyal.
So I just couldn't do it. And I just have no desire to go back. I don't even think that, Taylor and I even talk about stopping by Target ever. And so it's out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And so I'm guessing that now they really feel the pockets, because even though they've done so much to try and get people back, especially people of color, where majority of people are just like, nah, we'll either shop online or we'll go somewhere else.
Well, good. That's a good thing. Just to show us the power of our dollar, especially the Black dollar, and we are not to be taken for granted.
Right. Right.
The second part of our love lifting segment, we talked about this before. We've lifted this brother up before and his family before, but I felt the need to bring it back because things have changed significantly. Shedeur Sanders, who we know, we're now hearing, it's coming out now through credible sources that he was literally blackballed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but now it's
that was because of his dad.
Yeah,
right?
But now it's coming out like they're saying literally the teams were told not to draft this guy, and that the Browns were even called and said, don't do it. But not only did it, they started this young man in the first preseason debut for the Cleveland Browns, and he threw 2 touchdowns. He went 30 for 10 victory against the Carolina Panthers. He completed 14 out of 23 passes, 138 yards, and led the Browns to 3 touchdowns. Not 2, but 3 touchdowns. And so
the brother did the damn thing.
The doggone thing.
He did the doggone thing. Yes. Right? Look.
I watched it. Watched the game, and I was so proud. They said, matter of fact, it was one of the it drew some of the most viewerships ever
because everybody wanted to
NFL
see, like,
Network
what you gonna do?
Yes.
And so he was like, "Look, watch me now."
It sold out more than any other
But
rookie jersey.
Cleveland Browns,
Yes.
Assuming McGann, my mentor, he loved the
That was his
Browns
team?
because
Okay.
they always going against the grain.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Browns,
They did.
drafted the first African American to play in the NFL. And so they always go against the grain. So we must commend the Browns.
Give it up for the Browns.
But
Shador
also,
and the Sanders
Shador Sanders, because he was like, yo, look at me now.
That's
like,
right. That's
y'all tried to play me, right?
That's right. and now look at me now. That's right.
Absolutely.
So episode 45, Love and Light podcast. And once again, we're talking about they're locking doors. They're signing declarations. We say all politics are local. We're seeing local things that are happening on a local level. We're going to get to that later, that are national, all over the national news. What's going on?
Listen, so you remember a number of years ago, a couple years ago, when we were doing redistricting here in Monroe County or Rochester, New York, it became a big thing because of how they were trying to draw the lines and whether they were including or making enough districts for, people of color and to Black and brown people to get elected.
Yes.
So now, generally you do redistricting every 10 years, right? You don't do it in halfway through. And so now, in Texas, the Texas governor and all of them, because we know next year is the midterms,
which is just as, if not more important than the presidential election.
Absolutely. So they are trying to redraw the lines, right? And they actually, the Democrats in the legislature a few weeks ago, they left the state. They were, then they mandated them to come back, told them they were going to be arrested and all of that. And then just this week or the end of last week, one of the legislators were locked in the Capitol building, told could not go home because she would not sign an agreement to accept, basically patrol
24-hour watch
from the police. And so now she's sleeping in the Capitol. So you're a legislator. Like what? Like tell us about that. Like how would you feel?
I all I can say is I think about county government, I think about city government. We had a rule in county government that if we went over 12 o'clock in a meeting, that we had to take a vote of everybody. And it had to be a majority vote for us to be able to stay past that time. And we all dreaded being able to get to that situation, right? So I can't imagine being locked in. The only thing that I can even brings me close to that are two situations, and one was the public defender situation. Remember that when actually Civic was arrested along with Reverend King and Reverend Franklin Flores, Ray Scott, Ray Scott and Reverend Franklin Flores were arrested. And I remember the Republicans going in a locked room and leaving us Democrats out there to whatever could have happened would have happened to us.
I remember you hopping on the table.
I hopped on the table. I tried to calm everybody down. And then I also remember during this whole Palestinian thing that was going on, that we had a situation in city council where, the building was locked down in a situation. But I've never could experience having to be locked as a legislator, as an elected official, being locked into a building and forced to stay there until I vote away that somebody else or does something that somebody else want me to do.
Right, so
like that seems illegal. It seems unconstitutional. It seems unmoral. There's so many things that's wrong with that.
And she couldn't even take a phone call.
That's crazy.
And participate in a phone call from the Democratic National Committee because she's in the Capitol, because they said like you can't do political stuff while you're on in government, and so or on government property, I should say. So that is just amazing. It is absolutely amazing because I never thought that we would come to such a time as this in my era, in my time, right? I remember listening to my grandfather's stories as a sharecropper and him growing up and the things that he faced and, my mom and my uncles and all that. But today, right? Today we have so much happening where, they're changing the history books. They're actually taking artifacts out of the National African American Museum on the National Mall because they feel like they're too racial. they're too racist, or they tell a story that they don't want told. They're rewriting history right before our eyes. And you know what? People aren't standing up and fighting against it in a way that it's making a difference. They don't even care. They're like, oh well, yeah, we did it. So what?
And I think some of the reasons, and we look at how these local things are making national attention, and we draw them to our local situation here. One of the reasons why I truly believe that they're so confident and comfortable doing these types of things is we look at the voting numbers.
Yeah.
This past election locally here was the lowest voting election ever.
Right.
In a mayor's election ever.
Yeah.
And that's with 10 days extra early voting that was designed to get people to vote more. Yeah. And with new machines.
Right.
That makes voting even easier. That speak in every language and do all this stuff. And the vote. So what some folks have figured out, and I say, the powers behind the machine, if you will, that's behind a lot of these elected officials, is that they figured out how to just galvanize their vote. And then when they can't galvanize their vote, they change the rules.
Right.
Which is what we're talking about today, of this redistricting and this realigning and what's going on with all of that, so that they can continue to stay in power. And I think there was I don't know if she was a governor, it was a white elected official just recently in Texas who said, I'm speaking from a white woman, that this is wrong. And she talked about how, it's taking away the vote of the marginalized and people of color, et cetera. And even with the Latino vote, which, remember this now, the Latino was one of the larger votes for the president. And then now at Texas, with what they're doing, they would be most impacted and have the least amount of representation in the Latino population in Texas if this goes through.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is like, these people don't care, right? It's like, we often talk about how, or, like, how could, in slavery times, African Americans in some places, they outnumbered their oppressor, right? But the oppressor remained in power. And it is because of situations like this. And we see it happening right now, today, right?
2025.
And you see people trying to push it in, and we have allies. You have the lady in Texas. You also have Governor Newsom in California, who was like, all right, y'all wanna do that at Texas. Well, we in California, we're about to draw our lines to do the same thing, so that we can have more Democratic legislators and try to impact and try to, basically neutralize what they're doing in Texas. But this is not the way that we're going to be able to move our country forward, right? But it is creating just significant chaos. The president has taken over Washington, D.C.'s police department, over from the mayor. It's like, at the end of the day, crime,
threats have been made. We just got a letter here from a high representative from the federal government to Rochester, saying, what they're going to do, if we don't, because of the sanctuary city and all of that kind of stuff. And our corporate council has responded to that. And I believe the county executive has also signed on to a letter in opposition of what the federal government is saying concerning our sanctuary city policies. And they're going after all of these cities and mayors that typically are predominantly Democrats,
right,
that are in these sanctuary cities, threatening with all of these threats.
Yeah, and a sanctuary city means
sanctuary city is basically, I think that's gone back, the legality of it, but it's gone back for years, where basically immigrants, we can't really like detain them and just ship them out of our city. It's considered like a safe zone, if you will, right? And so you can speak more to the legalness.
Our police department won't assist ICE with carrying out federal policy, right? And the Constitution, lays out and protects cities or protects states from having to carry out the rules and regulations of the federal government. And
there were certain places like schools, churches, that were really like forbidden for them to go into.
The courthouse.
And courthouse.
Right now, there, even in New York City, there's this issue where the ICE agents, like when immigrants were supposed to, or people that are trying to fill out their paperwork to get legal status, when they would go to court, they would come to court and arrest them there. And you had judges like, yo, like, you guys, you can't be doing this, right? You know, the United States of America, you know, you have, you know, the Statue of Liberty. This place was found, not let me say,
well,
built
by immigrants,
built by
on the backs of immigrants,
yes, enslaved,
yes.
But you know, it was the place that immigrants felt safe to go and make a home,
a place of refuge, right.
And now it is become literally a war zone.
Episode 45, Love and Light Podcast, powered by 103.9 WDKX. We are on a very sensitive topic of locked doors, signed declarations when the state and local politics go national. We just kind of transitioned into part 2. We're talking about this immigration piece and how they're going after sanctuary cities. And Site sent me something, and I was really interested in it. I looked into it, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion about it. But when we're talking about this, we got to look at, like, in Florida, Orange County Mayor Jerry Dimmons said during the press conference, and I did see clips of the press conference. He said, well, I'm going to go ahead on and sign the darn thing, right? And he was talking about addressing the modified ICE agreement that he had signed that day. Dimmons admit threats of possible removal, signed an addendum to agreement with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, authorizing correctional officers to transport detainees to other detention facilities.
This is so sad, right?
Yeah.
Because what the federal government, or what they're doing, because states and cities, you know, we rely on resources from the federal government, right? So you have a lot of capital projects, meaning your road construction projects.
One here is the Interloop North project,
right? Interloop North
$100 million,
right? And then you also have, like, support for roofing for seniors. You have your CDBG, your capital dollars that are being, you know, consolidated block grant dollars that are being used to assist the, you know, the least among us, right?
Yes.
And so what the federal government is saying to people is like, hey, you know, if you don't do, to cities in this states, like, if you don't do what we want you to do, then we're going to hold back your money. Well, that's going to impact millions of people across the country. And so you have this mayor here, you have the mayor of St. Louis, Missouri.
And then in this case, they're not just talking about holding back money, because I think he said, look, they're talking about removing me and my entire staff from, and see, that was also something that happened with the lock-in with the senator or the congresswoman that was locked in Texas. She also said they stopped their money. They stopped paying their staff. They stopped paying them. They weren't able to
which is so wrong.
And they're talking about removing people from office.
And all, I mean, the people you were elected by the people.
By the people.
And you
should, through the
be,
process.
right. You know, the people should have a say, right? And when you're talking about doing this, it is literally, this country is becoming a pseudo dictatorship. And we need to be very, very clear about the fact of what it is becoming. And people need to stop sitting on the sidelines. Or let me just say this. And I'm just, you know, I'm a Democrat, right? I always have been a Democrat, but bro, I'm looking at our folks like, what's the plan?
They don't have no plan. That's part of the problem. And a lot of people have been talking about that. What is the plan? Who got next? What are we doing? And one thing I will, at least it seems like now they're starting to push back and say, well, okay, if y'all gonna start doing these tactics and we're gonna start doing them too, you gotta fight fire with fire. You can't keep playing this role, this passive role, and you know, acting like this thing is not war. You said it's war, it is war.
And this is doing this, and they just doing that. And you're just like, oh no, there has to be, you know, like Project 20. This is the thing about it. They did not lie.
No, they told
you exactly what they were going to do. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. They put it in writing for everybody to see. And we should not be trying to build the plane while we fly it.
Right.
We should not be doing that. We should have a plan of action and of recourse and of what we're doing. And it needs to be tight and it needs to be something that everybody can get on board with and say, like, look, we done.
Episode 45, Love and Light podcast. So we're in that portion where we was like, call to action. What can we do? Lovely just went over some things right there. You got to have a plan. It should be concise. You got to get people buying into it, and we got to mobilize. But we got to also remember these midterm, we sounding the alarm to the community early enough to say, don't do what we just did in this local election and had the lowest turnout ever. We have to turn out the vote, and people got to vote in these midterm elections. You got to tell your friends in other cities and especially those swing states and other cities and other communities. We all got family all over. Tell your family, vote, 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 and it's extremely important because they know if they continue to have control over the House and the Senate, they can continue to put that plan that they have. They can continue to unveil and put that plan in action.
And on top of that, a lot of the changes that are coming forward, right? So we talked about the big, beautiful budget bill won't happen until after the midterms, right? So people are really not going to see the effects of what they're doing until after the midterms. So like Willie has just outlined, if you don't do anything else in 2026, you need to encourage your family, your friends, and everyone to get out and vote.
Yes.
It is imperative. It is for our children's future, not just our children's future. It is for our right now.
Yes.
And so I am going to not only encourage you to vote, I'm going to encourage you to dance like nobody's watching, sing like there's no one listening, live like it's heaven on earth, and love like you've never been hurt.
And I encourage you to remember to keep shining. You can't put a lampshade on the sun, so let your light shine. And be encouraged. God bless you. Peace.